Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for another exciting edition of the Valkyrie podcast. I'm your host, AOB, and my guest tonight, the one and only Mr. Jerry, or should we call you Light? I got Jerry as your title, but which one would you prefer?
Whichever, doesn't really matter. Been called both, so either one, I'm cool with, man. It's all right.
And then, like, beside your name, it's like Valkyrie OG, and we're going to get into that tonight as well and why your title is OG. But before we get into that, we always love to talk about our buddies, our partners, our sponsors over at Gamer Subs. Make sure you guys head on over to gamersubs.gg, pick you up a waifu cup, husbando cup, which just dropped finally. I'm excited about the husbandos getting some love. Get yourself some GG formula as well. They have caffeine free. If you don't like all the caffeine in your drink, that's totally fine. You have that option. Use code Valkyrie on checkout so that way you guys can get 10% off your order every single time. But now that the plug is out of the way, Mr. Jerry, now we can kind of go into who you are and why some of the people that have been around Valkyrie for a long time know you are, but maybe some newer viewers, because we have been catching some traction lately, may not know who you are. So let us know, Jerry, who are you? What did you used to do for Valkyrie? And, how was your role in the org building?
So it's funny that I laugh about my role because I was bounced around a lot in different roles in Valkyrie. I was part of Valkyrie for 2 years. So before Valkyrie, I was part of Jerky XP. We'll get into that. But then when I got that situation, I applied for a position at Valkyrie, which I believe at the time I was a community manager. So I was in charge of getting with content creators, finding content creators, I believe, or it was on the lines of scheduling the community nights and things like that. So that was my role for the longest time. So after that, I got switched to the procurement manager, which at that point I don't fully remember even what that was. I don't know. I was bounced around so much, and then I became I was just here. I got so involved with the community, with Valkyrie. I got to the point where I didn't really have a role. I was just here. I just showed up. I was involved in a lot of the content. If you guys look through the Valkyrie's TikTok, like one of the OG originals, back when Paj was doing some funny intro stuff, gameplays. A lot of those contacts were me. So I felt like brought a lot of funny content to Valkyrie at the time. And then so over time, after 2 years, my life as an adult kicked in, got engaged, had a baby, and I just didn't have time for this anymore. So I had to move on with life, and now I'm just an OG after 2 years. So.
And then that was a shock felt throughout the entire ecosystem. I remember everyone was so sad when you posted that message. Everyone was like, "No," but
dude, obviously. It hurt. It hurt. It was a very emotional day. I remember the day when I told Zach I was done. He DM'd me, hey, can you check in doing this? And I remember I worked a very long day. I know we were going through baby appointments, getting ready for the baby, all this stuff. I had so much going in my mind, and I just sat there in my chair for a couple minutes, just sat there, and then I'm like, you know what? I messaged Zach. I'm like, dude, I think it's time. I think it's just, I just didn't have the drive. I just didn't have the time to do it. I just want to come home and relax and, things like that. So.
Gotcha. And I think everybody will be okay with, kind of dropping what you're doing and, taking a man, I'm about to mess that up. Taking the mantle of being, dad, being a father. That always is going to come first. And we appreciate everything you've done for the org. I do have a side note here from Zach, by the way, which is interesting, and I kind of want to pick your brain on it because I was asking him. I was like, "So what all, did Jerry do before I was here?" And he was saying CTM, procurement manager, and then there's another one that says therapist. I'm interested on that one. What is that all about?
So, then a little bit about me. So my background is actually mental health. Gotcha. I have a bachelor's degree in human services, and so around that, it's pretty much the same level as a social worker or being a counselor and heading sort of that way. Growing up, I've always had a huge passion for helping those with mental disabilities. And so That's where my career went to after college. I was a foster care and adoption case manager. I did in-home services working with kids with autism, working with adults with different disabilities. I've worked with people from ages of 2 to 82, like in the 80s. Like I have that huge broad of like mental health, work, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, like I mean the whole 9 yards, working in juvenile prisons to prisons, and the mental health side of things. So it got to a point where near the end of where I was getting done with Valkyrie, a lot of it where I didn't like really have a role as much because I knew that there was a point where as Zach, like I need, like we gotta like back off a little bit because I knew my life was getting busy, and so whenever like there was like an emotional like issue going on with not just Zach but like a lot of people that were in the community, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm here to listen. I understand, I kind of did a lot of that, so that's where that came from. So,
Gotcha. Well, if you don't
yeah.
mind, I'm gonna kind of tangent off on that for a little bit. What got you
Yeah.
what motivated you to get into that field and like do that line of work? Like, what was your passion? Like, just to help people, or like did something happen? And obviously, I don't want to dig too much into personal life as well, but like that's a very interesting side. Not a lot of people go into that field and do it well and like procure, like they don't do it to help people, they do it for money, from what
Right.
I've seen.
Right. So originally so I actually made this like my sophomore year of high school. I made my mind on that. My fresh like throughout life, and I'll get into that. I was never into video games. I grew up in the country. Hunting, fishing was like my life growing up. My parents didn't like video games, the internet. They thought it was just a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a freshman, my goal was to be wildlife fishery science. I wanted to be like marine biology or a DNR or something like that. Something among that. Sophomore year of high school, I was playing for a travel soccer team. I hit a ball wrong, it hit me in the back of the head. I ended up getting a level 4 concussion. Which it's I don't remember how the levels work, but I did 9 months of occupational therapy. Had some memory issues. I missed a lot of school, a lot of it. So if you picture a brain, I didn't have like any internal bleeding, but it had like a goose egg in my brain. Like that's how big of it was swollen.
Wow.
A lot of my memory was gone. I had to like relearn a lot of like basic stuff when I was going through occupational therapy. So eventually when I went back to school, like going in as like a junior, I was doing sophomore classes. I had to like bounce back because I missed a lot of school. And then as a senior year, obviously I took like the most basic level stuff for them to allow me to graduate. So like from that accident, it like changed my life forever. I mean, I was just this normal kid, normal student, but then like once that happened, like my life like flipped back. But going to how I got into that field, obviously my comprehension dropped. Like it was hard for me to comprehend a lot of things. I remember watching a student that was in the special education class got bullied in the hallway by some random kid, and I'm not the type of person to be like confronting to other people. I just stepped in and I yelled like in front of the hallway in front of everybody. You don't pick on that. I got in that kid's face. I yelled at him, and so from there, I just want to just help people. Like, there's a lot of people out there that just don't understand what people actually go through. Whether regardless of the way that they're born, a lot of people can't help the way they are, and to see people struggle like that and get picked on and bullied was not okay. So that's where I end up getting my passion into changing my field like that. So.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
hey man, if no one
Yeah.
else has said it to you, thank you for that, because we need more people
Absolutely.
like that to stand up and help people. Mental health is such a hot button issue, especially in the last few years. We've seen an incline and maybe not necessarily understanding, but like an awareness about it and like an importance on it. Whereas growing up, mental health was rarely talked about. A lot of people kind of shrugged it off or thought you were crazy. If you were like, hey, I'm struggling, suck it up, right?
Right.
And we're seeing so many people that have issues with like autism, ADHD, or ADD, and other things like that, and how I wouldn't say a popularity around it, but like I said, awareness is the better word there. Everyone is really starting to understand that there are hidden issues and maybe how to help people with those issues as well.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with you. And I think that's why also like a video like you said, mental health is such a big thing now. And I know that like right now like video games is like one of the biggest escapes of that. And I would say like going well we'll talk about that in a little bit from the other topics of how that helped me when I struggled after that accident, of how video games kind of helped me out a lot. But that is definitely like one of those things that just help escape a lot of those things with depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So
I know I read an article earlier last year. I can't remember where I read it, but therapists or actually psychologists are actually starting to use video games to like monitor like how people think. You know, like because so some people, let's say you do, let's not an R or yeah, no, like an RPG, right? Some people like Skyrim, I think it was the most important one. They'll just go main quest to main quest to main quest to main quest, right? And then you've got some people that do side quest, or like they're trying to do main quest, but they get sidetracked by all these side quests before they finally come back to the main thing. And it's kind of showing them how like that person is going to develop when they get older as well. You know, like this person is more of a logical thinker. They go from main to main, and then they some people they can actually see that, oh, it might be early onset ADHD because you get distracted real easy, you get hyper focused on one task and stuff like that. And so they're able to use that as kind of early, I wouldn't say warning systems, but early indicators, and be able to kind of help people learn better learning skills and how to deal with it and stuff like that. So I wish I had it when I was younger, because I was born with ADD or ADHD, sorry.
okay.
Yeah. And so growing up, the way they did it for me was just, here's Adderall, right?
Yeah.
No, and I hate that for people because it takes your personality away as a kid. You know, as an adult, I haven't messed with it at all, and I probably should, but it takes that personality right away. You're not yourself anymore. Yeah, you're able to focus on schoolwork and stuff like that, but you lose your humor, or everything that interested you is just gone. So, sorry, we get sidetracked there, but yeah,
No, you're good.
it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
It is.
So you said you played soccer as a kid, right? Growing up.
Yep.
How was that? Is it just kind of the first sport that you were introduced to, or what about soccer really?
Like that was the sport. Like I started at 4. I played through from 4 till after I graduated high school to I played for club in college. I mean, I that was like the sport that I loved. When I was little, my parents, I met a friend preschool. You meet kids, parents meet friends, and oh, I'm signing my kid up for soccer. Well, okay, I guess I'll sign my kid up and see how it goes. I got hooked ever since. So I mean, that was like the sport that I've always been extremely hooked onto. I love sports, all sports. I love playing them. I just don't watch them. To me, I would rather be out there physically doing it myself. So,
Yes.
as much as I would love to get like and watching you guys, like getting with you guys, watching football and things, I would love to. It's just so hard for me to do that. So hard for me to do that, but otherwise, I love it. So,
Gotcha.
sports.
I grew up as a big baseball fan. So,
Okay.
I played baseball because my mom, weirdly enough, like my parents didn't want me playing football because they didn't want me getting hurt.
That's okay.
But yet, as a 10-year-old, I got my nose broken at a tackle at the plate because I was a catcher. So things
gonna
happen.
happen.
But
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember who it was. I had somebody else on where we talked about sports and how it's a really good teaching moment, for leadership, teamwork, discipline, and stuff like that. A bigger picture than yourself. So if your child loves sports, I'm a big advocate of let them play, but obviously don't force the issue either.
Well, no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And obviously, Sailor, just turned 6, or will be 6 months. Actually, no, I'm sorry, she just turned 6 months. I would love. I was talking to Kaylee about this. I want her to play soccer so bad. Soccer, like I want her to play. Obviously, if she doesn't, I'm cool with it. She wants to play like whatever sport. She wants to go into wrestling. I don't care, man. Let her go up there and whoop some butt. I don't care. But as long as she's happy with doing what she wants to do, and if whatever sport, if she chooses to do a sport, yeah, would I like for her to do something to stay active? Absolutely. But if she wants to do something else, I'm cool with it. So No, I
Gotcha.
agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, and I'm excited that we still get to be a part of like your life as well. So I think I know Zach and Mitch and all the guys that you got to know beforehand are gonna love being a part of that kind of as she grows up as well. So
100%, 100%. And that was like one of the biggest things I was terrified of. And I talked to Zach and Mitch about like when I leave Valkyrie, or when I left Valkyrie, they're staying. I was staying about like I get it that I'm still gonna be around. Obviously not as often, but it's not the same feeling as being like part of the org. I'll forever be an OG. I'll forever, blah blah blah. But it's not the same. I'm not part of the staff anymore. It's rough. It still hurts a little bit, but I'm still around, so I guess that's still a plus.
yeah,
So
100%. I mean, and a lot of the OGs actually still kind of come around as well.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's just because of the culture that we build, the people that we bring in, are like down to earth people that really care about each other, and they're not just here to have like VALK associated with their name and that's it. People that come here want to be here, and that's something that I talked to Zach and Mitch about like way down the line. Like after I was a CC, I was like, I love that feeling, and that's why I want to do more because I love being here. The org never had to, pick me up. They took a chance, so I want to return that favor. And I see it in every member that we pick up. So I love that about us. So one note that I know we did want to talk about was that before VALK, you mentioned earlier that you did work for Jerky XP. So explain what was that like? What was your main role there? What did you do? And I know like a little note here. You said it's like Gamer Subs, but Jerky instead. So it kind of dive into that. What was that experience like?
so getting into that was the most random way of getting any job in the world. So a guy that I went to high school with, originally I was on playing my Xbox One at the time, blah, blah, blah. I got a message on Twitter, or he jumped in the Xbox Live party. He was talking about how he bought Jerky XP, not knowing who. Well, I've heard of it because back in the OG COD days, they're pretty big. Not as much anymore. But he bought the company. We're chit-chatting for a while. I'm like, oh, yeah, it'd be such a cool thing. Next thing you know, he DM'd me on Twitter from the Jerky XP things like, yeah, I know your background and like, working with people, blah, blah, I'm looking for a community manager. But so so when I got hired in, my job was to work on find content creators or people that have applied to be affiliate or partner. I'm the one that gave them the discount code. I'm the one that
Gotcha.
met with them and said, hey, this is the guidelines of being affiliate. This is what you need to do as affiliate to become a partner, blah, 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 blah. And I worked with them on that to get them that certain percentage off everything. But to me, that was like one of the coolest experiences because I got to work with Red Reserve. I got to work with Red Reserve. I got to talk to a lot of people from Red Reserve. I got to talk to a few people from FaZe. I got to talk to, a bunch of other content creators. I mean, like some bigger people. It was definitely a really cool experience. I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years. The owner ended up getting a job offer based off what his degree was, and it was extremely well paying. But the problem is that he couldn't run a company and do that because something to do with his contract and interests and things like that. And I told him, I said, well, if you're gonna leave, I'm gonna do the same because I just don't want to work under anybody else. It was a very good learning experience for him and I both to like help run a company because it was just him and I, other than the warehouse that was in a completely different state, shipping and selling stuff. So once he left, yeah, I dipped out. So that was definitely my only other esports, I guess, experience other than what I've done in college. So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of that note, I know one of the ways that the biggest way that you and I have like interacted has been through League of Legends. Obviously, one of your, I guess, would you say favorite game, or would you say like top 10, top 5? Where would you put it?
The game definitely has a very special spot in my heart. Definitely my number one most favorite multiplayer game of all time. 100%. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So I guess
100%.
the biggest thing is like where did you pick that up? Where did you get exposed to it first? And then if you want to dive into, kind of where you've gone with it as well, go for it.
Yeah. So season 1, when the game first came out, I still had like my PS3 or whatever, Xbox, whatever. I was playing COD. My friends, mainly were playing. They had like the chippy computers back then and the laptops. They were playing League, and I remember sitting there watching them playing. Like, this game looks stupid. I'd rather be playing COD or Halo. Like, those were like my games that I wanted to play FPSs. But like, we would all get together, go to somebody's friend's house. We would play. All of us would hook up our computers, our Xboxes to the router. We'd play all night. But it got to the point to where I was playing by myself because they always wanted to play League. Well, I sat there and watched. I'm like, this game just looks so dumb. And if I got to the point to where I got a laptop, and I'm like, I'll give this a shot. I'll give it a shot. I tried it. I hated the game. I thought the game was stupid. But it's the only game they ever played. And so it got to the point where, like, well, I guess I'm just gonna keep on trying. It got to the point where I just played with them, and they were like way better than me. Got to the point to where I didn't really want to play with them because of the point to where I'm playing with them. They're yelling at me because of I was obviously newer. I was bad, but personally, I like being yelled at and being told, "Hey, you're making this mistake." That's how I learn. I like being told that. It makes me get going. Like, yeah, I gotta get my shit together. Like, I gotta do this.
Right.
But that's how it started. I think I started at the beginning of season 2, and yeah, so I started doing that. I played for a long time, every weekend. Living out in the country, I had like one of those Altel wireless things you plug into your side of your laptop. Used one of those. My internet would bounce from like 150 ping to 200 ping, like nonstop, depending on the weather. But I just cranked it out. So that's how it all started, and I stuck with it ever since. And I never got away from it. It just never goes away. And to this day, like, that group of friends and I still play here and there. But I'm actually at that point now where I'm at equal or better than them. Or, well, there's still a couple that are a little bit better than me, but yeah, that's how it all started. So very early in the game.
Trust me, somebody that's firsthand felt the wrath. Yes, you're pretty good.
Yeah, I would say that, like, when I was super excited when everybody in the Valkyrie channel was like, "Oh, we're trying League." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is extremely, like, this is amazing. I'm so happy. Like, I can, like, be, like, really good at a game and that you guys are not at, and I can, like, teach you guys." But I know that it got very frustrating to me because you guys, like, some of you guys don't learn the way that I did. So
yeah.
I like early when you guys first started, I did get like really aggressive about it. Like, no, you guys need to stop doing this. You need to do this. And it obviously didn't make a lot of people happy. And then I was like, okay. And I got talked to, like, hey man, try to take a step back. You're right. I do, because I want you guys to like the game. I love the game. It's the best. And I want you guys to enjoy as much as I do. So that's why I kind of took a step back. I'm like, they'll learn from their mistakes. If they want me to teach them a thing or two, then by all means I will. Yeah. So
the only time I ever had an issue was if we were doing like 10 mans. Yeah. If I have to be across the field from you, I'm like, God dang it. So yeah. What's your favorite role out of the 4 or 5? We'll say 5 technically, but yeah. What's your favorite role?
Mid's my best role. If it goes in order, it'd be mid's probably AD carry, support, jungle top will probably be my role. So from best to the least. Actually, I would say probably my mid and support are almost as equal, if not my AD carry. Those 3, just jungle and top, I'm just trash. So
I want to learn jungle because I feel like it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot, like, there's a lot of weight on the jungler.
Right.
The difference between a good and a bad jungler can turn a game so much, and I've been on both ends of it. Where it's just, you have that one Warwick, or if you like this meta currently, that one Warwick that's just everywhere, and as soon as you're like, all right, I got the tower, no problem, here comes Warwick for the gank, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, you'll get that. I know how to play all the roles well. It's just that like jungle is like one of those things like the meta changes around so much of like what rotations. Like every champion when you jungle them, you're supposed to start at this camp. This jungle starts at this camp, but then they go this one, like rotation. I'm one of those junglers, like I'm aggressive. I want to just gank. But I think that's why I'm not very good at it, because I don't focus on my farm. I'd rather just get kills and do that. It's the same thing with playing top. Top lane to me is the most boring lane, because it's like you guys are just off in this island away from everybody else. You're just in there just, oh, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to hit some creeps. I'm going to hit you again. It's not like there's no action going out there until the jungler makes it up there. It's a very boring lane, and I have zero patience. And that's why I lose top lane so much, is because I'm a very aggressive player. And that's why I win mid a lot, is because I'm a very aggressive player. And I like playing assassins and mages. The more the champions that have like really hard mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah. Any player, or sorry, any character that has mana already, I don't like it. Just because I hate having to keep up with that extra mechanic. I'm in the mix of things. I'm throwing spells and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden I click and nothing happens. I'm like, and I look down and that blue bar is gone. I'm like, crap.
Yep. Yeah, you'll learn when to use things at the right time. So,
yeah,
I get it.
I like top just because, like you said, it is like your own island. So it really is kind of up to just you and that other top laner. So like if you're having a bad lane, as long as it's not the jungler coming up to gank often, it's because you're playing poorly, and you can really judge that. It's not relying on, like on the bottom lane, it's the ADC and support, and if one person's playing poorly, then the both are not going to have a good time as well. So that's why I love top lane, just because I can be held responsible pretty much. Like if I'm not doing well, it's because I'm playing poorly. That's why.
I get it. Yeah, there's one of my buddies that I grew up playing. Him and I were a duo partners for the longest time, and he was a top lane Renekton one trick. Not so much anymore, but he has like 3 million experience on Renekton. But he's an amazing top laner. He knows the flow of what to do and when not to do it. I mean, he's mastered it to the point to where he knows every matchup for that one champion. Yeah, he's kind of expanded out a little bit, but that's like his thing. And I'm like, like when I go up there, I watch his lane, and dude, it's just so boring. Like, I don't know. It's just, but it's all based off playstyle. Like, I know that you do well up there. But you gotta do what you enjoy. Like you get so used to that one role, you go to play like some like mid, it's a whole different ball game. At that point, you're just nonstop poking, throwing spells at each other, trying to assassinate. That's just it's like a complete opposite play style.
And so one of my notes here that I had is that you did actually play for college. You played League for a college team. What was that experience like? How did you even get into that? And then like, what were your experiences with the team? Like, did you guys play tournaments and stuff like that? Did you, what were your winnings like?
So when I went to Western Michigan University, I joined, it was just a club, or some like whatever. They did have a team, but it got to the point to where I was like interacting into it enough to where they were looking for a staff member. They just graduated, so I applied for it. And all I had to do is just contact other universities, like, hey, you guys want to scrim? The guy that ran the club pretty much like, or coach or whatever, got a hold of the tournaments and like, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah. And I just had to find scrims, which wasn't that big of a deal. So, we played against like Michigan State to Ohio State. I mean, we played all across the country. Well, it got to the point to where we won some, we lost some. I'd say it was pretty 50-50 across the board on win losses. Eventually our support player transferred schools. He left, and like, well, we need somebody. And I'm like, I'll do it. At this point, when I think I was in college, was like my most peak time of playing League. Like I was like my highest point. I was doing extremely good. I was insane on top of all the metas on every little detail. I'm like, I can do it. I'll join in. I'll do it. I got that night. We did like one like 5-man whatever thing. So we just queued up together. We played. I did pretty well in support. I'm like, okay, well, we have a match tomorrow against Oklahoma State. I'm like, cool. and it was they came up for LAN, because they also had a normally, like at the time when this was a thing, like they would come up, like Oklahoma State came up, they were up for the weekend, like they played us, then they tried like Michigan State, then U of M, like they bounced around a little bit, so they're not wasting driving all the way up to Michigan just for like one game. That'd be kind of stupid.
Right.
So that's what they did. Well, so I set for LAN. I had zero experience. I had no, like at this point, I'm like, oh, this is like the big leagues. This feels cool. I underperformed so hard. I did
Oh
not
no.
do well. We got our asses reamed. I felt awful. I told the guys, my guys, I feel so sorry. But they, they got it. They get it because it was my first time on land. There was actually the crowd. Like there was like a huge crowd. It was like not really. It's almost like we're like in a basketball stadium, but the stands. It wasn't like 100% full, but it had a pretty good chunk of people. But it was just like it was like nerve wracking. Like it
Yeah.
was just yeah. And then I kept on playing. I kept on scrimming with them. We played against other schools. We scrimmed against MSU a lot. They were always really solid, really 50-50 against them. It got to a point where, like, okay, I'm starting to feel comfortable. We would drive to Lansing, we would scrim in them and their land. Eventually, I got to a point like, all right, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I almost got booted off
Uh,
off the team because I tried IGLing and it's not my role. Those are junglers. And I would say the hardest thing that we had to deal with on the team was communication. Our top laner was from China. Our jungler was from Texas. Our mid laner was from Australia. My AD carry was from Kansas. So our top laner in our obviously I understood the Australian, but the guy from China was extremely difficult. His
Yeah.
language was not. So going to team fights and understanding with him, it was hard for him. So he mainly relied on pings more than
Yeah.
anything, and it got to a point to where it was a lot of arguments after game. But I mean, there's nothing we could have done. Over time, I've performed better. I stopped IGLing. I stopped opening up my mouth so much and started relying, like you see, either A, we're all doing this, or if one person disagrees, we're not doing it. But it got to a point where I like to be in control kind of thing. So I did that 1 year, that one season, and then that was it. I ended up transferring schools back to where I was from. So, but definitely an experience I'll never forget, and definitely a very honorable, really cool experience to play on land, especially for a game like this. So
Yeah. I've never been able to experience that yet, as far as either casting or playing. Like I've been to a LAN, but I can only imagine like the feeling, the nerves, the sorrow or the agony of defeat, and then the thrill of success. Like just that pure adrenaline dump
dude,
is probably amazing.
well, because you only can wear when we went to play land, like you can't wear um like shorts. They wouldn't let us wear shorts. You can wear blue jeans. Like you only wear like certain clothing, and like I was shaking because my nerves are going so much. I'm like, I need like something like warm, like something to, like warm my hands, like something like my nerves. Like, well, we don't want any drinks up there by your computer, or something like a water bottle or something. I'm like, I don't want that. I need like coffee, or actually I prefer warm decaf or something. Nothing that gives me caffeine, but something that'll warm me up and calm me down.
Right.
They wouldn't allow it. So I got to a point to where, hand warmers became a you see a lot of pros doing that. Hand warmers became a good thing. I started wearing long sleeves, but nothing like no pockets. They didn't want pockets. And that's what I did. Other than because you're supposed to wear we had jerseys, but I had to return it. It didn't have our names on the back. It just had numbers. But I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm putting on this long sleeve. I can't. My nerves. But that's just how it went. It is definitely a nerve wracking, but like you said, the wins were just like adrenaline. The people were, it was super cool, especially when you beat a team that's beaten you multiple times in scrims. It was actually a really cool experience. And that was Florida State was one of those teams that just kicked her ass like every single time, and we finally turned around, we beat them. So that was really cool.
Gotcha.
So
Something you brought up earlier was that the OG kind of COD days and stuff like that. So what? And again, just kind of backtracking. Earlier, we talked about your injury, and then kind of moving forward, how video games played a big part in helping you like with the escape and depression. If you don't mind, I would like to kind of elaborate and kind of dive into that. Like, what was your start? Because I was kind of similar growing up as far as like like Pokemon was a big no. Yu-Gi-Oh, Dungeons and Dragons. My mom was like, no.
Mhm.
So luckily, video games I was able to do. But like, I guess where did you get your start in video games, and how did video games help you post injury deal with everything?
So starting, I was young, so I was, 90s baby, early 90s baby.
Yeah.
So my first original thing was my older brother got the original Game Boy. I'm talking like the gray one, the big
Yes.
brick. But eventually, so growing up, like I had Pokemon VHS. That's what we watched. My grandma bought me the Game Boy, the Pokemon edition Game Boy Color that came with yellow.
Oh,
Like yeah, that was like the first thing I ever got. And well, obviously I was really young when I got it, so it was very hard for me to like comprehend and understand it. I wasn't really much into it. My dad eventually got or not my dad, so my grandma bought us a PS1. My parents were still like, rainy days or bad weather days, you have to play for a half an hour or an hour or whatever. That's how it was. But that's how I started off with. But like when I was younger, like I didn't care for video games either. Like we'd go like my friend's house. A really good friend of mine had a Nintendo 64. He's like, dude, let's play Pokemon Stadium, man. I'm like, I'd rather go outside. Like, but I
yeah.
grew up outside. I grew up in the country. That's what I wanted to do. So I guess that's where video games started for me. When they really picked up was when the 360 came out. So I think everybody goes through this. When I was in middle school, it was awkward because you're trying to fit in with everybody. You don't know.
Mhm.
You're trying to find yourself. I was one of those kids like had this crush on this girl that was super popular, and I'm over here like this very shy, quiet kid. And I was kind of friends with the nerdy kids, but I didn't want the popular kids to know, kind of thing, because I tried to hang out with both of them. Blah 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 blah. But I remember like we had a computer class, and the only computer game you could play on there was the pinball
Yeah.
game, the OG pinball, or solitary, or 2007 old school RuneScape, which is what we picked up, and we played. Yes, I played a lot of RuneScape growing up too. Um, so that, and then once the 360 came out, I got hooked on Halo 3. That was my first FPS other than COD 4. Still best COD. I don't care what anybody says. COD 4 is still has a special spot in my heart. I love COD 4 so much. Um, Halo 3 was when FPS was like the biggest thing for me. There was this place near my hometown. It was called Area 51, and what it was, you spend $5 an hour, and you could go. It's like a LAN center kind of thing. They have like computers hooked up. You go up there, sound like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They have like a table set where you play card games, and they had TVs, box TVs. You hook up your Xboxes and whatever, and they'd hold tournaments every once in a while. Well, it got to a point to where I'd go there every once in a while. A buddy of mine, my parents hated it. We'd go there, we'd get a little Caesar's pizza, we'll play Halo online for a while. It got to a point to where I started entering Lone Wolf tournament. So if you're a Halo 3 fan, Lone Wolf was the free for all, and that's what I strove at. That's where I hit my general rank in the only playlist I ever played. I hit general rank 50 in Halo 3. But the funny thing is, like, I won those tournaments, a few of those, I guess. But it's funny because like growing up, I never had internet. So the only way that I got to play was like my two brothers that were god awful brothers to play the campaign, or I had to ride my bike 8 miles to town to my friend's house. And I put my Xbox 360 in my backpack. I would ride my bike all the way to town just to hook up to his charter internet that was like 10 or 20 megs, like top of the line back in the day.
Yeah,
And that's what we
buddy.
played. Yep. So I did that like every other weekend or every weekend, but that was my only experience other than lands or the one couple at Area 51, which was not like a big deal. The only thing you won was like a gift card to Little Caesars or something silly. Wasn't a big deal, but yeah.
Gotcha.
hmm
So, but yeah, and then the other thing was how did they help post injury? That was the other.
Oh, how video games like help like after my injury.
Yeah.
So after my injury, obviously I was at home. I was homebound for like 9 months. My parents, they went to work. I was fine. My mom would call me every once in a while, check on me. They're like, no TV, none of this, none of that, because, head injury, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. But I was so, like, down in the dump because I felt embarrassed. I was, like, extremely depressed because I would try to go to school.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, your school bells were growing up or in high school. They were very high-pitched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it would bother my head so bad. And I felt I'd go home, my friends or people would go home and go, where are you at? Where are you at? Or when I would go to school, I was a junior, they put me in sophomore classes. So I'm in the classroom with sophomores. It was extremely embarrassing. They're like, well, why are you here? Why are you here? Are you dumb? Are you, blah, 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 blah. I got to the point where I was like super depressed about it. So I'd go home and I would play. At the time, I was getting into league a little bit, and that's when I think I started striving a lot. Because when my friends were at school, I'd solo queue, and then I started learning on my own. And that at the time, that's when I had the all-tail card, so nobody else was on the internet but me. So my internet was actually okay.
Yeah.
So I guess getting that escape from reality is like the biggest help. I think that's where like a lot of people do now. It's like when they're going through the anxiety and depression, because that's such a big deal or a big thing anymore. Is depression, anxiety is so big, and I think a lot of it's because of the stress, the way the world is, social media, and all that doesn't help. But I don't want to get into that depth. But I think that's where it helped. Doing the solo queue, I wanted to learn this game. I wanted to focus on it. I watched guides. I did all this stuff, and then I started climbing, the ladder a little bit, and got off the computer when my parents were getting ready to come home and things like that. So
like the last 30 minutes before they get home, you start doing all the chores and tasks.
Getting all the chores done.
You're like vacuuming and running at the same time.
Yup. Exactly.
Oh man. So I guess the biggest thing is, how did you find Matt, or not Matt? Sorry. How did you find Zach and Mitch?
Oh, Valkyrie, just in general. Hit marker, the website.
What?
So
I was gonna say you might have.
Okay, so Hitmarker is a website where they not a lot of esports organizations or even companies post jobs on. It's a website all based around esports. And it was probably about a year after Jerky XP. I was like, yeah, I kind of miss being back in the scene a little bit. So I just Googled, like esports jobs, blah, 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 whatever. I found Hitmarker and I went on there. I was scrolling through. I'm like, instead of like working for a company, I kind of like check into an org. I see if there's like a position open, I think it'd be kind of cool. I don't know exactly what I'll do other than what I do with like Jerky XP or things like that. So I came across Valkyrie's posting and I applied for it. I think not even 12 hours later, Zach DM'd me. We did a Discord video call with one another. I nailed the shit out of that interview because I remember him asking me questions and I was nailing it. And then he's like, "Do you want the job?" Or so that's exactly how it went. But yeah, that's how I found them. But at the time, Mitch wasn't an owner.
Right.
Mitch was not even part of Valkyrie when I first started.
Oh wow.
No, it was Nate and Zach were owners. Matt was GM. Mitch joined, I think, 2 weeks after I did. Somewhere around there. And then I got in and I started, doing what I got to do. And it was definitely, I was very shy at first. And then I started opening up. I think one of the biggest things that opened me up was watching our Rainbow Six team. Like our OG Rainbow Six team was the coolest team. For those who are watching, that'd be like JJ Blast, Steam, X24. Like that roster was just absolutely insane, and they were so entertaining to watch, and they were just destroying everybody. And I think that was one of the coolest things, and getting people to get together to do things, kind of like what we do now. But I would say that I'm really glad to see where Valkyrie's at now. It's grown so much since I left, in a very, very, very positive way. I'm very happy for the org. I know that when I was in the role of creating community stuff, it was not working out. Tat and I were actually teaming up at one point, doing the same role, trying to like think of ideas, and it just wasn't working out. But it got to a point to where like, okay, well, this is not working. But I'm glad to see where it is now, and the community is getting together. So
Yeah, I miss Tat. I miss Tat.
I miss Tat. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But I understand, she's trying to go pro, and when you have that focus, I kind of, like with now that you have the baby, you have to focus on that. And with her thing is like she's trying to go pro, you've got to focus on that. So we are rooting for Tat, always behind the scenes. I don't know if she watches these, but Tat, we love you. Hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. I hope so too. She was an amazing person to work with. She was great.
Yeah, Tat
Absolutely.
was the content team manager when I first got brought in, so that was really special to kind of work with her behind the scenes, have her show me the ropes and everything like that. And I try to replicate that as well from my time now as a GM. So if we get anybody new, I always reach out like, hey, if you need any help, if you need any or have any questions about the org or who to reach out to me and I can help you out. Just because having that like sponsor when you first join a place is huge. Someone to really show you the ropes and everything like that. So
Yeah, she was a content creator when I first started. Actually, I don't think she was yet. She was about to be, if I remember right. Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha. And as far as like watching, so it's just like I can watch sports and watch teams that I love, and like you have that passion, that energy, and want to see them succeed. But something is so surreal about watching like our Valorant team play or our COD team play, seeing the logo, seeing the name, and like there's just so much more passion there because it's something you're involved in, like our COD team just competed in challengers up in Boston this weekend, and Joey was there, and so I remember us all watching, like we're hovering over the COD matches chat just to see the updates as they came in, because we couldn't watch a stream because they weren't streaming it. But it's crazy how all this, or it brings all these people together, watching the same thing. We're all pulling for it. It's something truly special.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Watching your team, I think that was one of the coolest things to see your team. Even to this day, I still try to watch every single esports thing that Valkyrie puts out there. All the tournaments, like every single thing. I try to watch it. I've listened to every single podcast so far. Just saying, I have every single one of yours so far. Listening on the way to work, on my way home. Takes 4 trips before I'm done with it, but I do listen to every single one. So, but yeah, I it would be really cool to go watch your own team perform, especially in person. I think that'd be such a cool experience.
Yeah, I would love to go to a LAN and just have the jersey repping and stuff. That'd be heaven.
Yeah, I think it was at one point we were talking about doing that, but we never did.
I know we were wanting to. I know Zach was really wanting to go to Boston, but unfortunately things fell out right at the end there.
Right.
I know they miss it. I know they miss going to LANs, man, and feeling that vibe.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that getting together with other people in your org is a really cool experience. Like we went to Florida for Matt's wedding. Zach and I, Mitch and Josh and Nate got that Airbnb together. What that was one of the coolest experience easily like in my life. I loved it. Like not just friends, but like your teammates. Like just getting together and just hanging out and you never met each other in person, but like you go hang out it was cool. It was something special. And that right there kind of shows you like the bond that not just that we had, but what the org and what at the time Nate and Zach has brought to the table before Mitch became owner. Had brought to the table bringing us together, and this is a really cool idea. And I would 100% would do it again. 100%. Whether guys I'm in the org or not, I would 100% would go hang out with everybody. So.
Gotcha. So you were there in person in Florida. So I have heard rumors about Florida Nate. Do you have a story or two that you could tell us? Because we've only got about 10 minutes left, so I think this would be perfect.
Florida Nate was something different. He was like a 5-year-old child. Um, we spent a few hours looking for Pokemon cards one day. My God, dude. We get down there. This dude, he's like, dude, we gotta go buy some Pokemon cards. And I'm like, we'll go do a layer, which is like, chill. No, like, he's acting like a 5-year-old, just nagging. And eventually, fine, we'll go. We bounced, I bet you, like 4 or 5 stores. We were gone for a few hours. Finally, got to a Target and we found some. And he was like the happiest little boy ever. But he was just all over the place. Like, you have to ask Zach or Mitchell. I don't know if you have access to the files in the Google Drive, but there's a lot of videos on there that I recorded of Nate when they were playing pool. I don't know if you watched those or not. The funniest, he was a trip, and I would say he was the entertainment down there, regardless or not he was acting like a child for that little bit of time. But I loved it. It was definitely a really fun experience, and he was a really, really funny guy. And um, yeah.
I can't. I love hearing the stories every time they pop up, and I can't wait to create some of our own come November when hopefully everyone can come down for the wedding. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually just met with our DJ today. You know, we're kind of ironing out all the music that's going to be played. That's going to be so cool to finally meet everyone in person too, and have that, that bonding. Because like over the internet, meeting, face to face over video and everything is one thing, but actually being in person and really feeling those like vibes off of each other, it's just there's no other experience.
Oh, 100%. It's definitely it's adrenaline. It's awesome, especially like me and Matt, and Ashley. It was a really cool, and I guess Alan, but it was still. But that was actually the first time I met Alan before I even played games with him. Before I think he even got a computer. Really, really fun, chill dude. In person, Alan was so. But I would say that it's definitely a cool experience. And congrats to you on getting married. I am looking at first week of April myself. I was getting married. We are just gonna go down, take the cheap route, going to the courthouse, getting it done. It's $20, and then not this summer, but probably the next summer when Sailor gets a little bit older, when I have a huge bash. I'm gonna invite all the peeps, you guys included. It'll be a really big reception party.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing. I'll say y'all are going to travel to Michigan, but
that's fine.
it'll be worth the travels. It'll be a lot of fun, and I obviously will invite a lot of people from VALK. So that's my goal.
That's gonna be awesome. I know we are actually gonna be able to see Matt and Ashley come June because we're going to Blast Premiere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the spring finals are in DC. That's like a 4-hour trip for us. So of course we're going right up. That's gonna be exciting to finally see Ash, Matt. I don't think Alan's coming, but just because Ashley and Tricky have become like best friends.
I've noticed that they're hanging on your Discord a lot. Yeah.
So the girls will be able to go do what they want to do. Like obviously, I'm going to spend 3 days sightseeing just because I'm a huge history nerd. I want to see American history nerd. I love just the fabric of this nation. I want to go see the roots, right? And then Saturday, Sunday will be like Matt and I's day to go watch Counter-Strike.
Absolutely, that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm excited. It's gonna be my first like major experience. So to feel that electricity, oh my goodness, I can't wait, man.
Yeah, and I would say that hanging out with Matt and Ashley in person are just as fun as they are online. They're both a lot of fun, 100%. So yeah, there won't be a dull moment for you guys there at all.
Gotcha. All right, good sir. We are closing in on the last couple minutes here, so obviously you don't stream or anything like that, but would you like to plug your Twitter and everything if anyone would like to follow you that's listening or anything like that?
If I even know what my Twitter handle is. I think my Twitter handle is it's actually at JairBearNA. It'll say light, but that is my at. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the sponsors for this. Thank you, Gamer Subs. You guys are amazing. You guys' drinks and whatnot are absolutely amazing. We went down to Florida. They brought like a ton of tubs down. I got to try like 4 or 5 different kinds. Loved them. So definitely Gamer Farts, still my number one, my most favorite one. I love that flavor so much. So thank you.
You know what? Actually, there was one more question, and this is like,
Oh.
I think that it'll only take about 5 minutes, so this will actually be like right on the money. Where
No problem.
Where did the gamer tag come from? Where did Light come from?
Light. So that's new.
Okay.
That's new. So for the longest time, my gamer tag was JerryBear NA.
Gotcha.
Obviously, JerryBear, you know, I was always called. My name's Jerry. NA North America. It's just because JerryBear is always taken, so I was trying to be creative. Well, I got to a point to where I think last year I changed to Light. I haven't told anybody about this actually, so this is the first.
Ooh,
I'm gonna. Yeah, this is huge. Early last year, there was a student of mine that before one of my previous jobs, when I was doing some mental health work, was going through an extremely rough time. I mean, I'm talking like at home life itself. He was going through a lot of mental health to the point to where he just didn't want to be around anymore. I was there day and night. You know, I don't ever get my personal number, but I did. I talked to him all the time. It got to a point to where he was starting to get better. He finally got the courage to seek out help, you know, all this other stuff, and he's now doing extremely well. And then the one day he texted me, he said, you know, thank you for being the light in my darkest times. And since then, it hit me. Like I've always wanted to change my name. I didn't know what to, and at that point, I'm like, I gotta change it to that. It was a very warm felt part. The kid, you know, he's graduated high school. He's doing phenomenal now. Doing his own thing. I haven't talked to him in quite a few months, but just that one text, it really touched me. So that's the origin. That's the origin of that. And you guys are the first ones that heard about that. So
outstanding. You know what? That is a perfect way to kind of wrap up a bow on this thing, man. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, taking time out of your busy day.
Absolutely.
You know, thank you so much. We always like to have some OGs, people that really laid the foundation for the org, to be on here, tell their story.
Absolutely.
And you're just, you know, an overall great person. So thank you very much. Good sir. Have a good rest of your night. Ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for us here at the Valkyrie podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening in, whether it be on Spotify or YouTube. Either one, you can find us on both. Drop a follow on both of these great, amazing platforms so you can be in tune for the next time we actually release this episode and the concurrent episodes after that. This has been Jerry and Angel of Battle coming at you again. Have a good rest of your night, and we will see each and every single one of you in the next one. Have a good one.
Later.